Life's got a funny way of kicking you when you're down, or at least that's how it felt for me, Monica. I was just a regular 25-year-old, dealing with the usual mess of a life that seemed to spiral out of control more often than not. My days were filled with the mundane tasks of a job that was as uninspiring as watching paint dry, and my nights? Well, they were spent arguing with Jake, my boyfriend of 3 years. Jake was complicated. On good days, he was the guy who'd make you laugh until your stomach hurt. On bad days, he was the master of cold shoulders and harsh words. Our relationship was hanging by a thread, frayed and worn from too many fights about things neither of us would remember the next day. One particularly drab Thursday evening, I found myself sitting across from Jake at our usual spot, a dingy diner that had seen better days. The air was thick with the smell of grease and stale coffee, a fitting backdrop for yet another round of our endless bickering. "Why do you always have to be so damn difficult, Monica?" Jake snapped, his patience wearing thin. "Me? Difficult? You're the one who's impossible to talk to," I retorted, my voice rising in frustration. The conversation went round and round, like a merry-go-round that had lost its charm. It was always the same issues, the same arguments. Money, commitment, the future, you name it, we fought about it. Our words were like daggers, each one sharper and more hurtful than the last. As we left the diner, the cold night air did nothing to cool our tempers. The walk home was silent, each of us stewing in our own anger. The tension was palpable, a thick fog that refused to lift. Once we were back at our cramped apartment, the silence continued. It was as if we had run out of words, the bitterness of our argument leaving us both exhausted and defeated. The only sound was the ticking of the clock, a relentless reminder of the time we were wasting. Lying in bed that night, I couldn't help but wonder where it all went wrong. Was this what the rest of my life would look like? Endless fights with a man who seemed more like a stranger with each passing day. The thought was suffocating, a heavy weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. It was in that moment of despair that I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. Something had to change. Little did I know, the universe had already set in motion events that would change my life in ways I could never have imagined. But for now, I drifted off to sleep, the storm clouds of my life gathering on the horizon, waiting to burst open. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, tragedy struck. My parents and I were involved in a horrific car accident. It happened so fast, one moment we were talking and laughing, the next everything was chaos and pain. When I woke up in the hospital, the world as I knew it had crumbled. My parents were gone, and I was left alone with a damaged spine and legs that wouldn't move. I couldn't see a future for myself. My life, as I knew it, was over. Lying in the sterile white of my hospital room, I was drowning in thoughts that maybe, just maybe, my life as I knew it was done for. The doctors, with their carefully neutral faces, told me that my road to recovery would be long, maybe never-ending. Rehabilitation will be a significant journey, they said, their voices a mix of professional detachment and pity. But what I heard in their silence was a louder, scarier message. They didn't want to give me false hope. It was during one of those countless, blurred days filled with silent despair that Jake walked into my room, his parents trailing behind him. They had that look people get when they're trying to be strong for someone else, their smiles a bit too tight, eyes a tad too bright. Jake came to the side of my bed, and for a moment, he just looked at me. I saw something in his eyes then, a determination I hadn't noticed before. It scared me a bit, that intensity, because what could he possibly say to make this situation any less of a nightmare? "Monica," he began, and his voice cracked like he was fighting back emotions too big for him. "I know this is probably the worst timing, and I know you're going through hell right now. But I can't pretend anymore. I can't act like what I feel for you isn't the most real thing I've ever felt in my life." His words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Then, before I could even process what he was saying, Jake did something completely crazy. He got down on one knee right there on the cold, hard floor of my hospital room. "I love you, Monica. I love you more than I've ever loved anything or anyone in my life. Marry me. Let me take care of you. Let me be the one by your side, through all of this and whatever comes next. His parents, standing just a little behind him, had tears in their eyes. His mom, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, nodded at me, as if encouraging me to say yes. His dad, a man of few words, just placed a supportive hand on Jake's shoulder, a silent show of approval. I was speechless, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Fear, love, uncertainty, hope, they all battled within me. But looking into Jake's eyes, seeing the raw honesty there, something in me just unlocked. Yes, I whispered, the word barely audible. Yes, I'll marry you. The relief and joy on Jake's face were like a sunrise after the darkest night. His parents came closer, both of them assuring me, "We're going to take care of you, dear, as if you were our own daughter. Your family now." The wedding itself was nothing like I had ever imagined my wedding would be. It was small, intimate, with only the closest of our relatives and friends. I was in my wheelchair, feeling a mix of exhaustion and happiness, a bizarre cocktail of emotions. But when I saw the faces of those who came, saw their genuine smiles and teary eyes, I knew this was right. This was real. Despite the unorthodox circumstances, that day was a blur of love, a testament to something I wasn't sure I believed in anymore, hope. Jake and I, hand in hand, faced our small audience, our vows more than just words, they were promises, a bridge over the uncertainty of my recovery and our future. And as we sealed those vows with a kiss, I allowed myself to believe, maybe for the first time since the accident, that life wasn't over. It was just taking a route I hadn't planned on, a route I wouldn't have to navigate alone. After Jake and I got married, we moved into the big, fancy house my parents left me. It was already fixed up for someone in a wheelchair, with handrails everywhere and special stuff in the bathroom to help me take a shower or a bath. At first, Jake seemed all caring and helpful, like he was really gonna stand by me through thick and thin. But that changed faster than I expected. Not long after we moved in, Jake quit his job. He said it was 'cause he needed to take care of me, but honestly, I wasn't seeing much of this so-called care. His excuse was that we didn't need to worry about money 'cause of the inheritance I got from my parents. According to him, that meant he didn't need to work anymore. But here's the kicker, I ended up doing most stuff by myself. Cooking, trying to clean up as best as I could, struggling to take a bath, it was all on me. Meanwhile, Jake spent his days glued to his computer screen, playing games, or hanging out with his buddies at some bar. He'd come home late, usually drunk, and then he'd start on me, calling me a burden and whatnot. It wasn't just Jake either. His parents, who used to be all sweet and caring before we got married, flipped a switch too. They'd come over, and I'd catch them giving me these looks of disgust when they thought I wasn't paying attention. It was like they saw me as some kind of mistake their son had made. One day, I had enough and confronted Jake about it. I was struggling to make a simple meal in the kitchen, and he just waltzed in, looking for something to snack on. "Can't believe you're just lounging around all day while I bust my ass trying to do basic stuff," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. Jake just rolled his eyes, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Oh, come on, Monica. You act like you're the only one who's got it tough. I gave up my job for you, remember?" "Gave up your job? Please, you've made that into some kind of noble sacrifice. All you do is mess around all day while I'm stuck dealing with all of this." I gestured around the kitchen, my voice cracking with emotion. "And what's that supposed to mean? You think I enjoy having no life outside of this house? You think I like seeing you like this?" His voice was getting louder, more aggressive. "Having no life? You're out every other night, Jake. How's that having no life? And me? I didn't choose this. I didn't ask for any of it." I was shouting now, tears of anger and frustration welling up in my eyes. The argument spiraled from there, each of us hurling accusations and hurtful words until we were both too exhausted to continue. It was clear as day that the man I married, the family I thought I'd gained, they weren't the support system I'd hoped for. They were just another set of obstacles I had to navigate in this new, harsh reality of mine. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in my home shifted from uncomfortable to outright hostile. Jake's parents, who had once put on a facade of concern and affection, now treated my home like their personal kingdom, blatantly disregarding any semblance of respect or boundaries. Their behavior escalated quickly. They roamed the house as if it were theirs, rummaging through the refrigerator at any hour, taking food without so much as a "by your leave." The living room became their domain, the sofas permanently indented from their constant lounging. The television blared from morning till night, filling the house with incessant noise that grated on my nerves. I remember one afternoon, trying to catch a moment of peace, I asked them, yet again, to lower the volume. "Could you please turn down the TV? I'm trying to rest, and it's really loud," I pleaded, my voice laced with frustration. My mother-in-law, without so much as glancing my way, waved dismissively and replied, "Oh, stop fussing. The volume's fine. You're just too sensitive." Their audacity left me fuming, but nothing prepared me for the discovery I made one quiet morning. I decided to sort through my mother's jewelry, seeking a small connection to her, a moment of solace amidst the chaos. As I opened the cherished casket, my heart sank. The pearl beads, a precious keepsake from my mom, were gone. The shock of their absence was quickly overshadowed by anger when, later that day, I saw the missing beads adorning my mother-in-law's neck. I confronted her, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. "Those are my mother's pearls. How did they end up with you?" She feigned confusion, a poorly masked look of guilt quickly passing over her face, before she retorted, "Your mother's? Don't be ridiculous. These have been mine for years. You should be ashamed, accusing me of such nonsense." Her words stung, but they also solidified my growing suspicions about the kind of people I was dealing with. My discomfort turned to vigilance, and it wasn't long before I noticed other items missing: paintings that once graced our walls, expensive dishes that were part of my family's collection. Each disappearance chipped away at my sense of security, leaving me feeling more isolated and betrayed. The final straw came when I caught a glimpse of my mother-in-law one evening, sneaking out with a large, bulging black bag. Her hurried pace and the way she glanced around, thinking she was unnoticed, spoke volumes. I couldn't stay silent any longer. Confronting her the next day, I demanded, "What was in that bag you took out last night? More of my things? More of my parents' memories you decided you're entitled to?" Her reaction was a mix of defensiveness and guilt. "You got it all wrong," she stammered, avoiding my gaze. "I was just taking some things to donate." "Your accusations are hurtful and unwarranted." But her words rang hollow. The evidence was too damning, the pattern too clear. I was living with vultures, picking over the remains of my past life, my family's legacy. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow, leaving me to wonder how I could ever have thought these people were my family. Lily, my beacon in the fog of deceit surrounding me, was more than just a friend at this point. She was my ally in a house that felt more like enemy territory with each passing day. During one of her routine visits for my massage therapy, which had become one of my few solaces, I finally broke down and shared my darkest suspicions about Jake and his parents. The weight of my words hung heavy in the air, thick with betrayal and fear. Lily's response was immediate, a mix of outrage and practicality. "Monica, we need solid proof. How about we plant some bugs in the house? Catch them red-handed?" Her suggestion, radical as it seemed, was a lifeline. Desperation had a way of making the unthinkable suddenly seem like the only option. So, we did just that. Lily expertly placed tiny recording devices in strategic locations around the house, her movements swift and unseen. The anticipation was torture, waiting for the right moment to listen to the recordings. When we finally sat down to review them, the sense of betrayal I felt was suffocating. Jake and his parents' voices filled the room, their words a testament to their greed and callousness. Jake's voice was the first to cut through the silence. "Once Monica is out of the picture, in that institution, everything here is ours. We'll live like kings." His mother's laughter was a chilling soundtrack to their scheming. That jewelry sale was just the start. We'd barely scratched the surface of what we can make off her inheritance. And his father, always the quiet one, surprised me the most. Keep it down. We don't want her getting wind of this before everything's in place. But yeah, the sooner she's gone, the better. Lily and I exchanged a look of horror. The reality of my situation was worse than I had imagined. They weren't just stealing from me, they were planning to dispose of me, to erase me from my own life. I can't believe this. How could they be so cruel? My voice was barely above a whisper, the hurt and disbelief rendering me almost speechless. Lily, ever my protector, squeezed my hand tighter. We won't let them get away with this, Monica. You're not alone in this fight. But the question of what to do next was daunting. Confrontation seemed too dangerous, given their plans for me. I need to be smart, I said, the gears in my mind turning. They think they're playing me, but now we've got them. I need a plan, something to turn this all back on them. Lily nodded, her determination mirroring my own. We'll figure this out, together. They picked the wrong woman to mess with. As we plotted our next steps, the recordings continued to play, a grim soundtrack to our resolve. Each word from Jake and his parents fueled my determination to fight back, to reclaim my life and my dignity from those who'd so callously tried to strip it away. The dinner table that night felt more like a stage for a performance nobody wanted to attend. Jake and his parents, acting as though nothing was amiss, exchanged glances loaded with unspoken words. Their feigned ignorance was almost insulting. As we sat there, the chasm between us couldn't have been wider. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, the sting of their deceit cutting deeper with every secretive look they shared. Fueled by a mix of hurt and defiance, I turned to Jake, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Jake, look at me, I said, waiting until I had his full attention, his eyes finally meeting mine. Do you love me? Truly? His reaction was a beat too slow, his smile too forced. Of course, I do. You're my wife, he replied, the words sounding rehearsed, empty. That smile, meant to reassure, only served to confirm my suspicions. I smiled back, a hollow mimicry of his, a silent acknowledgement of the lies that hung between us. Waking up to find the ramps gone was like waking up to a nightmare. The realization hit me hard, without them, I was trapped, even more dependent on the very people who sought to control me. I confronted them at breakfast, my frustration boiling over. Why would you remove the ramps? How am I supposed to move around now? I demanded, my voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. It's for your safety, dear, my mother-in-law cooed, her concern as fake as the pearls she claimed were hers. We're worried you might fall. This is for the best. Their words were a thinly veiled attempt to further isolate me, to clip my wings. I stared at them, their faces a mask of feigned innocence, and said nothing. My silence was strategic, a calm before the storm I was quietly brewing. Behind their backs, I made calls, reached out to the service for the disabled, and enlisted my lawyer's help. They arrived unexpectedly, a welcome intrusion. The shock on Jake and his father's faces was palpable, a mix of fear and disbelief as the team from the service began their assessment, immediately noting the absence of the ramps. My lawyer, ever the professional, wasted no time. We're here to conduct a thorough inventory check, he announced, his tone brooking no argument. An inventory was made after Monica's parents passed. We're going to verify that everything is as it should be. As the meticulous inventory unfolded, the stark reality of betrayal became increasingly apparent. My lawyer, a steadfast presence amidst the chaos, meticulously checked off each item against his exhaustive list, his professionalism a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil swirling around us. The absence of my mother's jewelry, my father's collection of expensive suits, the missing paintings that once adorned the walls with history and culture, antique dishes that were family heirlooms. Each missing item was a wound, a testament to the depth of deceit I was surrounded by. The in-laws, once so adept at weaving a facade of concern and familial warmth, found themselves cornered by the irrefutable evidence of their greed. Their initial shock quickly gave way to a desperate attempt at salvaging whatever they could from the situation. Tears streamed down my mother-in-law's face as she turned to me, her voice quivering. "We're so sorry, dear. It all just got out of hand. Please, can't we move past this?" Her husband, my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law, echoed her sentiment, his voice breaking under the weight of his guilt. "We never meant to hurt you. It was greed, foolishness. Please forgive us." But the time for forgiveness had long passed. I faced them, the weight of their betrayal heavy on my heart, yet my resolve unwavering. "Forgiveness? After everything you've done? You didn't just steal things, you tried to steal my dignity, my independence," I countered, my voice steady and strong. Turning to the police officers, I presented them with the inventory results and the recordings, undeniable proof of the in-laws' deceit. "These are the people you're looking for," I said, the finality in my voice marking the end of this chapter of my life. The court proceedings were swift, the evidence overwhelming. The judge's gavel sealed their fate, sentencing them for their crimes, mandating the return of what could be salvaged from their thefts, and compensating for what could not. Watching them face the consequences of their actions, a mix of relief and sorrow washed over me. Justice had been served, but at what cost? Divorcing Jake was a liberating, if painful, process. I also pursued compensation for the mistreatment, a legal acknowledgement of the suffering they had inflicted. Throughout the legal battles, my voice never wavered, my testimony a cathartic release of all the pain and betrayal I had endured. In the end, sitting in a wheelchair on the steps of the courthouse, a sense of closure enveloped me. The journey had been harrowing, a test of my resilience and strength. As I look back on the tumultuous journey I've endured, it's hard not to feel a sense of pride mingled with disbelief. The road to recovery was fraught with uncertainty, yet here I am, making strides, both literally and metaphorically, that once seemed out of reach. My legs, which doctors feared might never regain their strength, are now carrying me forward, step by tentative step. The sensation of pebbles under my feet, a once mundane experience, now fills me with an overwhelming sense of victory. "Your progress is nothing short of remarkable," my doctor told me during a recent visit, his voice tinged with genuine astonishment. It was a far cry from the cautious optimism he offered in the early days of my rehabilitation. Reconnecting with my friends has been a lifeline, their unwavering support a constant reminder that I'm not alone in this fight. "We're here for you, no matter what," they assure me, their words a balm to the scars left by betrayal. Jake, the man I once believed would stand by me through thick and thin, has become a distant, almost pitiful figure. Stripped of the financial windfall he so greedily anticipated, he now scrapes by, his calls and apologies a desperate attempt to claw back into my life. "Can't we just put all this behind us? Start fresh?" he pleads, his voice a mix of desperation and hope. I can't help but laugh, the sound rich with scorn and liberation. "Start fresh? With you?" I reply, my voice steady and confident. "That's a chapter of my life I've happily closed. You're just a footnote now." The flowers he sends, a pathetic attempt at reconciliation, find their way straight into the trash. "You think a few roses can erase your betrayal?" I scoff, discarding them with ease. They're a reminder of what I've overcome, not of what I've lost. In the midst of navigating this new normal, I've discovered a passion I never knew I had. Painting has become my sanctuary, a way to express the whirlwind of emotions that accompany my journey. An easel and a set of paints are now my most cherished possessions, allowing me to bring memories of my parents to life and to capture the beauty of the world around me. "This is how I heal," I explain to anyone who asks, my brushstrokes a testament to my resilience. My transformation is not just physical, it's a rebirth of my spirit. They thought they could break me, but I'm stronger than I've ever been, I declare, with newfound determination. My story, once overshadowed by the actions of those who sought to exploit me, is now a narrative of triumph, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is light to be found. This chapter of my life, while born from pain and betrayal, is defined by growth, resilience, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of a new beginning. I am not the same person I was before. I am stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever comes next with grace and courage.